With everybody posting videos about the demise of the NAMM show this year, we figured we'd jump in and give you some perspective from somebody who's actually there with our favorite and not so favorite moments from this year's NAMM show.
All right, guys, I don't know if you spend time on YouTube. I'm on there all the time.
Are you?
I've been getting inundated with videos, clickbaity videos on, is this the end of the NAMM show? Are trade shows over? Why attend? Who didn't attend? I think it's time for us to give our perspective on the NAMM show we attended. And I think we've compiled our favorite things about the NAMM show 2024 and our least favorite things. And let's start, we're going to do a countdown. We're going to count down from number 3 up to our favorite things. So
What comes after 3?
I believe we'll find out straight ahead. We're starting with number 3, my least favorite thing about the NAMM show this year, and that was vendors that didn't show up. And I've talked to a few of those vendors before the show and after the show, and they said, the economics of it, man, we figured out that we could actually come visit your store in person and having one-on-one meetings with you.
That's pretty good.
And it would be cheaper than us attending the show, and we get more done.
It sure
and you
would.
know what? It's been since 2020. Not one of those guys has come to visit us in the store. We've missed out on those face-to-face meetings.
To be fair, that is way less money than they would have spent.
A lot less money.
You know what I say that? If well-intentions were horses, I'd have an entire stable.
Well,
That's
that's
fantastic,
close-
Jay.
that's
I'm
close
so
to
glad
the same.
you shared that with us.
But this is the argument we get quite often.
Yes.
It is an expensive show to attend to, especially if you're one of these big vendors that set up a big booth. But part of that is the motivation from us as a retailer to go visit with them, get that those handshakes and those face-to-face communications.
That's what you're
with
trying
them.
to say. I knew you were.
And then also just the way they present their new products. I think the NAMM show is the perfect event for that.
I need
And
those
think they're missing out
companies
on
to
a
be
bunch.
there in order to know what is it that we are going to be talking about in this coming year for products. And if you guys aren't going to show up, I don't care to talk about you anymore.
And if you're going to use the excuse that you're going to come visit us, then our doors are always open. Give us a call.
right.
We'd love to see you. Yeah. But so far, so that was my number 3 least favorite thing about the show this year.
What was your number 1, least, first, third?
My third favorite thing about the show, and this goes along with this, was the after-hours dinners we had. We went out with the Eastman crew, which the connection we have with Eastman started...
Eastman and Bourgeois.
It started now it is the Eastman and Bourgeois partnership. So Dana and his team were there as well. But the partnership we have with Eastman is a direct result of our first year attending NAMM, and we got to be personal friends with the crew over there, and then going out to dinner with them again this year, catching up, and then talking to them about business, but also personal life. It really helped that connection. We went out to Benihana's with Tom Bedell and the Rain POS guys.
It was his birthday even.
It was Tom's birthday, yes, and you got a little candle for him. But that's great. Those kind of one-on-one interactions,
Personal connections. Yep. That is the key.
So that was my third favorite thing about the NAMM show this year. How about you, John?
All right, my third worst thing about the NAMM show this year was sort of tying off of your worst thing too, not seeing Gibson, Fender, or Taylor, or for that matter, D'Addario. These are big companies, some of the biggest in our industry, who just weren't there. I didn't get to see any of their stuff. I didn't get to see what is it you guys want to talk about this year. We're in an industry of innovation. Even though, especially acoustic guitars are still based, most of them, except for the one I'm holding, are based off of traditional aspects of building and how they do. It's still got to have innovation. It's got to have something new, something exciting. And I want to know what is it that each of these companies was trying to tell us this year, and I have no stories. I got nothing. I got nothing to tell you guys. Nothing.
I think the NAMM show should have just left a big empty spot where those guys used to attend and say, the former home of so-and-so.
Home of Gibson. R&D
like
for Gibson, Fender.
Just saying there, they will be meeting with you in your store.
When they get their plane tickets all sorted out.
Look for the
RSVP for them to show up at your
What was your favorite, your third favorite thing,
favorite thing. Guys, this is the best part about always. It was back in January.
That's a good thing.
It is a good time to go, and it's even better in the fact that it's Anaheim in January, which means the weather was beautiful. We were in the mid-70s. We left here, it was like
Spoken
teens.
like a true Midwestern.
Yes, it was the teens, and it makes it even more valuable for me to go out there. I wouldn't want to be around any of you guys if it weren't for the warm weather.
Enjoyable, nice warm weather.
It was nice. Yeah. Saw grapefruits and oranges.
Growing right on the trees. Jason, how about you? What was your least favorite thing about NAMM this year?
You know, my third least favorite, not my least favorite.
right.
You were starting at 3 here.
Yeah, we're
The noise at the NAMM show, or at the Eastman booth in particular. And I thought they'd have a really nice spot. They moved from where they normally
Into
are
the
in the
acoustic
B&O area.
guitar
They're in the
area.
acoustic guitar area. But they ended up being right next to a very loud booth, and they ended up having a lot of electric guitar amps in their booth. And to be honest, we got to hear nothing from their acoustic division.
Yeah.
And that included
was
the
a
bourgeois
bummer.
guitars. It was a big bummer. I love those guys to death. We're like family, but
They were showing off some
that
cool
was a
electric
major
guitars. Don't
failure
get
on
me
my part.
wrong.
They were cool.
But that seemed to
not
be
what I
the
meant.
only focus of that booth was
It was very
the
loud.
electric guitars.
It was very, very loud. And it wasn't all them, but it was partially them. It was very loud in that booth.
That was disappointing. I agree.
Yes. And my number one, third best, least favorite.
You'll never get this. Never.
I got it right.
All right,
That's
go
the way
ahead.
I say it. So leave me alone. All right. Third best thing that happened. We went to the Top 100 Dealership Awards. We were top 100 dealer again this year.
Ooh.
Thank you very much for everybody out there who voted for us. But we were also nominated in 2 categories, and specifically online engagement, best online engagement. I mean,
That's
that's
your
what I
division.
do here. I'm proud of my team.
For
and
those
to
of
see
you
us up there,
who have always wondered what Jason does here, now you know what he does here.
anyway. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud that we were up there in the top 3.
I agree.
We saw us up there
It's
with
a huge accomplishment. For the online engagement was great because there's so much effort that's put into that. 100 dealers, actually a lot more than that apply, but 100 are selected as the top 100, and then to get to the final 3 of a category. And we got in there for 2 different categories, online engagement and sales promotion. It was very exciting when our names got thrown up on the board.
Yep, and I wasn't even mad that Timon won it.
That's a big company.
They're
They
huge.
do some pretty good online
Yeah, they got-
engagement, I'd say.
Welcome
It's
to
all
the
German.
Amazon of music industry
in Germany.
in Germany.
What was your number 2?
We're moving up to
worst?
number 2.
What was your number 1, 2 most worst
Oh,
best?
gosh, that's confusing.
Playing
All right, we're counting down to number 1, guys, and now we're at number 2. The worst thing that happened for me at NAMM Show this year, I got to carry around a lot of the camera gear and talk about gear. We have a backpack, just probably 150 pounds of gear in that thing,
all
batteries and
batteries.
backup stuff and chargers, all that. It got very heavy, and we went from one end of the thing to the other end of the thing, filming these live streams, and then to have the grief we got from some of our viewers, not our real followers. They were understanding and supportive, but some of the viewers that tuned in said, "Get it fixed, guys. This ain't worth it." And I'm like, I'm carrying around 150 pounds for you guys. You appreciate that a little bit. My back still hurts, by the way. So that was my
That's
least.
a little bit
I
of
understand.
whining.
That's a little bit of personal whining, yes.
Yeah, good for you.
Next year we're bringing Trent just so he can carry stuff.
Maybe you'd make yourself more important.
Trent was
You didn't
there.
have to
Well,
carry
next year Trent's carrying stuff.
Trent had a
Carrying
camera on
other
him.
stuff.
I
He had a
want Trent
big
to
old
carry
rig on,
a
and
front
the
back.
thing and
That's right,
hanging
he had the
and
whole cage
pole,
on.
Yeah.
Next year he's gonna have the
Whiner.
backpack too. And then my second favorite thing was this year we got to present at the NAMM session. They do this really cool. We've learned a lot as a business. One of the things for business attending NAMM is they have a section called the NAMM or NAMM University sessions, and they have all kinds of different presenters in there.
Education.
They bring in some great presenters in the entire industry, whether it's how to sing and protect your voice, how to do online engagement, which the part we were doing was YouTube, using YouTube to create content for your retail business. We did a double session, an hour long. Jason did a great slideshow for that, and the audience reception of it was great. We were even told at the end of that we killed it. I was pressing next slide just like a pro. Fast. There was
We've had people die in
go
the
back.
audience before, but we never killed them until now.
that one show we did. So that was a lot of fun presenting with you guys on that.
All right, that's great. My second worst thing of NAMM. All right, you ready for this? Not having the time to go around and check out all the booths. This year, we were jam-packed with our schedule. We had performances, we had seminars like what you were talking about, and we had so many live airings and filmings for things that we were doing throughout the entire week that I never really got to do. In years past, I would just go up and down the aisles like a big snake and just hit everything, whether it was in our wheelhouse or not. I saw the electronics and studio gear and everything. I saw nothing but the booths that we worked at this year.
I think that's something that's going to start happening more and more as we get bigger and busier, have more engagements, more vendors to see. It's going to be tough for us to get what we
It
want out
is
of it.
tough.
And that's something I kind of came to realize this year. I didn't even miss it because I was just so focused on getting content that I was like, I'm not here to look at new things. I'm here to do this one thing. But part of your job is to see new things. So I understand
I
that.
think in the future, I'm
but
going
I
to have
got-
to step up and try to pretend to be a guitar player on a few of these booths. Let John go explore. I was exploring a little bit because just about every booth we went to was guitar-centric, so John got to be the host of those. And next year, I'm just going to step it up and say, how many strings does your guitar have, sir? And I'll be the host and let them talk.
Does this have
that'll
the
give John
nickel
some
or the
explorer time.
bronze strings on it?
I noticed that you chose to use wood on the top of that guitar. Interesting. Tell me about that choice. Now we'll work on that, John. You'll get some exploring time.
I think that would be really good. I can't wait to
some
see that
pointers next
content. That'd be the best. All right, my second best thing that I saw there, actually it's what I got to do. I hung out a lot with Dana Bourgeois and the Eastman folks for that matter. We talked a lot about what is coming new for them and just got to hang out and talk.
We talked a long time about Dana's new truck.
Yeah,
that was cool.
He's rebuilding a truck. I love the fact that every year that we've ever been there, I get to see my heroes, not just in guitar building, but there's also a lot of performers and that kind of stuff. So people like Dana Bourgeois being able to go through what is happening and catch up, that was an absolute blast. Talked about some of the new exciting endeavors that are coming for both of those companies. That's a wonderful time.
It was a blast.
My number 2 worst moment at this year's NAMM show was getting denied entry into Taylor's private room.
Denied. Jason, I don't know if you know this or not, but you, me, Jeremy, the entire team, not important enough to be allowed into that room.
You know what? I know this is a personal vendetta, I understand. But no, seriously, we stood there and watched. They had a gatekeeper, and we watched multiple fans and just random people that were denied entry saying, this is a private room only for Taylor dealers. And, at that point,
but I don't get it.
No, I understand. So here's what I see. And it's what Taylor's done in the past. They have a great showroom because we're in a consumer business, right? We're selling guitars not to dealers. We're selling them eventually to people. People want to see that. You want to display them in a correct way. And then Taylor and all the big Gibson always had this Fender. You got a really nice room with some more stuff that the dealers can go to, look at privately, hear better, play,
That's a
touch,
good thing.
feel. That's wonderful. Having those two things, but not having both is a major misstep in my opinion. It's offensive.
It was
I'm
difficult
sorry,
on us
that's
because
offensive.
half the time we do our videos, we get flamed for why didn't you include these guys? Why didn't you include those guys? And one of them we always get is Taylor. Why wasn't Taylor in your list of top guitars? Because they didn't even allow us to touch them.
Yeah.
Like you
Well,
had to have
last
an
year they didn't
appointment
show
and be a
up at
dealer.
all. They had nothing. This year they show up, kind of show
So
up.
it's a decision, kind of a risky decision, but we talked about how noisy it was on the floor, and we couldn't really conduct business very well because it was so loud. So we understand them having a room that the dealers can actually talk quietly with their reps, but to not allow any of the general public or even to have a scheduled time that would be open to the public, I think was a big misstep on their part.
I honestly think it was a major slap in the face to a lot of fans of Taylor.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
not
she
that
literally
offended.
slapped you
Really,
in the face when you
honestly,
tried to get in there.
yeah, she hit me hard.
Wham!
I'm honestly not
Ouch.
that offended. I understand that I don't need to be in there, but I watched. What bothered me more than me being denied is watching fans that came up and spent the time and money to get to California to visit and see these things, and then say, "No, you can't. You're not allowed in here."
What would offset that, Jason? What
My
was your
number two,
favorite?
and this was exactly offsetting his exact statement. My number 2 best thing was Alvarez's booth. They showed up and they were in a great spot that was quiet. They had great representation. They had a cool little booth that you can go into. Was really quiet. You could hear the guitars.
Mostly,
you could play the guitars. Yeah, well, you could hear the guitars at NAMM standards, but you could play the guitars, and they brought a lot of great stuff.
Let's contrast
welcome
that
people
because
into the booth.
last year,
Yeah.
the parent company for them is St. Louis Music,
Yep.
and last year they literally put 3 guitars on a stand and a pedestal, and that was the entire representation for Alvarez.
And maybe that's why I wanted to call
This
them out
year-
this year and give them an attaboy.
This year,
Attaboy, Alvarez.
exactly, they showed up with a whole segment, explained their entire line. I think this is something that almost every manufacturer needs to kind of think of. I'm not saying copy it, but I agree with you. Go in there, know your core business or what you're trying to accomplish for that week, and make that happen. That was great.
Show
And
up
it
or
shows
don't
it worked
show
for
up,
us.
right?
Like if that had been a dealer-only room and we hadn't gone in there to see them, we wouldn't have been intrigued about the brand enough to pursue it like we are, and we may end up becoming an Alvarez dealer because of it. And I think that's what the NAMM show is for: is introducing those products
may
to people.
not, who knows?
But it intrigued us enough that we're looking into it. So
That's right.
Kudos to Alvarez for doing that.
sir.
All right, I'm going to go to my number 1 worst experience at the NAMM show
here it
2024.
comes. Are you ready?
And I agree with everyone else online. NAMM show needs to shut it down, pull the plug, literally, on all the booths that have amps because they were competing with each other and being as loud as possible. They had full bands showing up at booths, like 5-piece bands, and they would crank up the volume, and then the booth across from them would say, oh, you're going to raise your volume, well, I'm going to beat you at that. And so there became this competition for volume, where at the end of it, we're yelling, and we get out to, you finally walk out of there into the outdoors, and it's just silence, and your ears are ringing just from
I can
that
hear it right
background
now.
noise.
Everybody goes, "Oh yeah, that's what NAMM's always like." No,
It was
this
not
year
like
I've
it.
been to what 7 years now. 7
We've
NAMMs
done,
at
I think,
least
8.
in Anaheim. So you guys been a couple more before I went, but this was the loudest.
It was as if you were in the drum section the entire show, like everywhere you went.
I literally walked by a booth. I was going from one end to the other, trying to get to a place quickly, and I had to stop because I went by a booth that sounded literally like 17 teenagers that were strumming a guitar with open strings as hard as they could with their volume all the way to 10.
Why did they have to be
Just
teenagers?
literally, because that's what they sound. You know, everybody knows, everybody who's ever been to Guitar Center knows exactly what I'm talking about. So take that sound and multiply it by 10. It literally, and it wasn't music. It was literally sounded like wow, wow, wow. Like I don't know what they were doing.
It was deafening, and especially when we're trying to do some recording and do video content, it made it so hard. Our mics were trying to compress all that background noise, and we're yelling as loud as we can to hear. You're doing an interview with somebody standing a foot away from you, and you can't hear what they're saying to you, and you're trying to read their lips. So it was louder than I've ever experienced. NAMM needs to, I think, if I'm giving any advice to the folks at NAMM, you need to go back around and start sending those volume police with their dB meters and just say, bring that volume down, you're way too loud, because it was just getting out of hand. And my ears are starting to come back now, and it's been about a month. And I think...
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. My number one best thing, guys, thanks for asking, performing with Jens Kruger. Jens Kruger has been an idol of ours. Again, the connection that we made with Jens happened last year at the NAMM show. We got to hang out with the folks at Deering ahead of the show. If it weren't for the NAMM show, I don't think we would have got to know Jens as personal as we have. But this year, he volunteered. We asked him, hey, would you like to perform with us at NAMM? We submitted to perform. We actually performed twice, once out on one of the main stages in the thoroughfare, and then we got to do the breakfast session, which is great. That's like, if you want to have everyone in NAMM attend an event, give them free breakfast. So that's the big event of the day.
Any
and
kind
we
of
got
free
to
food,
perform
really.
on a Saturday morning with Jens Kruger, which was awesome. He's such an incredible banjo player, but even more so, one of the most genuinely nice guys in the world. I just
He's a
love
sweetheart.
talking to him.
He's a literal sweetheart.
I can't overemphasize how friendly and nice he is, and
fun.
lack of ego, and how fun that was. I was giddy just getting to play on stage and listen to stuff he was throwing in there. So that was my number one highlight of the NAMM show this year.
Very cool. My number one worst things, and this again would have easily tied for the volume level with you. I could have easily put this in here. But again, we kind of sort of covered this a little bit too. But some of these booths that just didn't know what their core was and have a build for it. This idea of having full bands performing inside a booth that you can't get any more people in to even look at it. Products that were buried behind other things that you couldn't get a hold of to do it. Your example of Alvarez and having a well laid out booth that people could walk around and check out in a quiet atmosphere, or at least a laid back atmosphere to get you that. There were a lot of companies, again, I get that electrics and acoustics and basses and all that have to coexist inside brands, but at least divide those up in a way that made it so that you could understand the core product that you were looking for. It's going to sound like we just, as acoustic people, only wanted to hear acoustic things, but the fact is a lot of these booths were laid out in ways that just did not allow you to hear anything else but a certain
It is
key
curious
product.
wondering what people's purpose of attending the show is. We went to a couple booths where they actually had zip tied the guitars to the wall so you could see them hanging on the wall. I guess that was better than Taylor where you couldn't go in, but you couldn't actually pick them up and touch them or play them. So what's the
Totally
purpose
true.
of being there at that point? I don't get it. It seemed like a few booths were missing the mark a bit on that.
That's why I thought it was one of the worst things
Good job,
that was
John.
there.
What was your favorite thing that happened?
You know, we came up with this project, and it just kind of fell into our lap of getting this Santa Cruz guitar that was owned by Tony Rice. And me and Jason were talking one day, and he was like, you know what would be cool? If we take that and get it to Richard Hoover and do it. And we're like, the
man
NAMM
himself.
show is coming up. This would be awesome. So we got the permission to do that. It was so much fun to hang out. Again, I tell you, these legends of guitar builders is so awesome to hang out with anyway. And Richard has been one of our favorites for many, many years.
Another sweetheart.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the kindest guys out there. And then we got to present him with this and watch this whole thing unfold live in a booth.
It was a surprise. He didn't know it was coming.
People can't see it, but in that video, there was probably 20 or 30 people standing around going, what is this? Oh my God. And it was being spread, like the rumor was being spread of, that's Tony's guitar.
You know my favorite part of that? And somebody pointed out online when Richard looked at it and he goes, there, big fella.
I know, that's my
Got
favorite
taps the
line.
back of the neck.
When he said that and touched it, and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool.
You see the connection that he's got with
Yeah.
it, with building.
And again, that's an
guitars.
experience that would not have happened without the NAMM show. We wouldn't have flown to California with that guitar to meet with Richard. We knew we were going to interview him and go by their booths. We're like, let's make this happen. So those opportunities that come along,
Yep.
that was a joy to watch.
That was good.
Absolutely.
Jay, how about you? Number ones.
You ever seen a man cry?
Yes.
I did
That
see
was
it.
me.
I watched you.
We had
And
some
have an
struggles.
old
Okay, so this
answer.
year, we've done it in the past. We've live streamed. We've got a great system. Normally, it's pretty solid. But this year, the congestion on the cell signal and the Wi-Fi was absolutely atrocious. We had a couple other failures, things that just out of our control that failed with our live streams. We got a lot of live streams, and they weren't 100% failures, but
No.
they weren't 100% great.
This stuff-
And our audience that watches
They find
on
us a
people
bit.
on YouTube, what?
They flamed us a bit.
Yeah. The people on YouTube are not 100% friendly. Can I say it in a nicer way? Some of them are hateful and really hurt our feelings.
And some of them have unreasonable expectations that we have a full satellite vehicle out.
We
in the
had
road
one
that we can get a
guy that
connection
literally
to.
said, I used to work for Fox News, and we would never let this happen. And I thought, well, I'm sorry, I didn't requisition a satellite.
We did have a number
I
of people
don't have
say,
a-
we would prefer that you film this stuff, edit it, and then upload it. But our argument for that is we want to make the NAMM experience, we want to share it with people as if they're there. So we love the interaction of fans, and it was great when we
Asking
were doing it.
questions.
They're asking questions live. We're getting questions that we might not have thought of to ask the manufacturer. The fans themselves are saying, hey, could you ask them about this guitar? Could you ask them why they do this? So that part of it, I think, is worth the effort. We're gonna make it work. We talked to the folks at NAMM about figuring out a way to get a better connection. Some of those things were out of our control. I still think it's a worthwhile endeavor, but I know Jason did go home and cry a lot the first night.
You've never seen a man so tired, exhausted, and defeated.
There's a lot of effort that goes into the pre-planning. You guys had schedules. You had the interviews lined up. We had when we're going live at home here. Hinkley had all the graphics ready and the countdowns going. So much effort put into it, and for it not to work out to the level that I know we always strive for was very frustrating for you.
Can I stop that though and say, hey, how about kudos to Jason and the team for what they did accomplish? It was not a failure. I really do want to stress that. Those videos are still
borderline.
being watched quite a bit. It's just borderline. There were mistakes, don't get me wrong. And there were mistakes by me. There were mistakes by things that
Most of it
weren't
was out of our control.
yes, a lot of it was out of our control. But one thing I want to point out is what you said earlier. Nobody else was doing a actual interactive experience, and there's 100 other channels that were filming stuff to show later. And I just don't see where we're going to add anything
Any value.
super special to that conversation if we did it that way. So again, Jason and the whole team that was there, I know it was tough, but
Here's to
I
next
think,
year.
yeah, I think
That's all I can
Hey,
say.
it can only get
you
better
did
than
good.
that, right?
Yeah.
I think you did good.
Maybe.
Buddy, I love you.
One thing I've learned is with live streaming, you never know what's going to happen, and there's always something that's going to happen. So we'll try to
next
make
year-
it better next year. I'm sorry, sir.
The satellite
if you
truck
can give me
is gonna
the
be
number
there.
for your former director at Fox News and ESPN, I'd love to talk to them about renting
We'd love to share what
an
our
entire
budget
truck
is and
and a
see what they
satellite.
can do with it.
We'll see what happens. Anyway,
right.
my number
On the
one,
flip side,
best
Jason.
top, best thing, super happy, best top, number one thing.
Make me happy days.
Along the lines of make many happy days. Seeing all our fellow creators there this year, that was great. And specifically Andertons. This
Yeah.
is the first time they've been back in 3 years, 2 or 3 years,
think
I believe. I think that's what they
post-COVID.
said. And they came back, and seeing those guys absolutely kill it with content. We saw our good
Working.
friends with Eddie's. They got some great content. Seeing them working hard and to see the fruits of their labor, I thought that was so cool. That really plays into what
And
I believe.
talk about a flight.
NAMM
They
is
have to come
for.
all the way from across the pond, so that's
Yeah.
a long flight to get over there.
Which pond?
It's a long one because then I got to go across the U.S. too.
Can you fish in it?
That's a long trip. But
Koi pond?
It was kind of the overarching theme of the NAMM show this year. I was happy to see the president of NAMM talking about the NAMM show being welcoming in content creators, and they actually have a new board almost of people that are trying to make NAMM more accessible to the content creators. So seeing some of the people that we view often and getting tips from those guys, like I said, seeing Andertons walking around You go, hey, there's the guys from Andertons. And
Yeah, and they knew who we were.
Yeah.
You know what? Amazing. No, it honestly, what my big takeaway from that is it validated kind of what we've been saying and doing. The reason we were there is kind of what they were doing, and to see that pay off, it kind of inspires us or inspires me to say, you know what, we're on the right track. Let's keep creating content there. Let's keep creating it using that that podium for creating content.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome to see that happen, and it's so good to see our good friends out there. And hopefully some of our other friends that are content creators will make the trip next time. I'd like to see them.
So let's have a content creators dinner. So let's all have dinner together.
We can do that.
Together.
So in the end, here's the deal. Was NAMM dead?
It was their biggest attended one post 2020. So they had more tickets sold this year than they have since the COVID hit. 2020 was their biggest year ever. It was huge, but this year felt the energy in the air, the excitement, the crowds. It felt like NAMM was back to me. I know we plan on attending again and making it a bigger event
honestly,
every
I'm
year.
going to say something that might be offensive and be a hot take here. I honestly think the people that aren't showing up and saying
This
that
is
it's
what I was
dead
going to say. I know what you're
are
going to say.
just justifying their
the
being
fact that they weren't.
lazy. I'm going to say it. You're being lazy.
Ouch.
You don't want to fly out there and take. It does take effort. It takes
takes
money.
money.
It
Disrupts
takes
your
effort.
business.
It disrupts your business. But you know what? It's been valuable to you in the past. Quit being lazy. Make sure you do it. Put everything you have into it. And
I
you'll
bet
get
we're
it
going
back
to see a
out.
lot of them.
I was
back
going to
next year.
say something very, very similar to that, which is only thing I have heard since I've been back. Everybody who was there said, what a great year. We did so many great things. It was a very fruitful year for us. And everybody that I heard from that was not there was like, boy, I'm so glad we weren't there. Nobody was there. There wasn't any of the dealers. There wasn't any of the fans. There was nobody there. And what a waste for all the people that were there. That's exactly how it broke down this
That's
year.
a phenomenon we've dealt with for, I mean, even in the music industry, you always have those guys that quit touring and they always call you up and go, God, I'm so glad I'm not there. When they're just really calling to say, man, I really miss being out there on the road with you guys. I totally am so glad I'm working 9 to 5 at a
justifying the
factory.
decision, which that's fine.
I understand.
I suspect that most of those people that didn't show, both vendors that we've listed on this show and other stores and content
if
creators,
not from this
I
video.
imagine a number of them will be
This
attending.
video is
next
going
year.
to change everything.
There's our
it is not
recap
dead.
of 2024. NAMM is not dead. I encourage anybody, both the fans, if you can get a ticket to it. I know they're trying to get some more fans in there on the weekends, and any other manufacturers that chose not to attend, make it worth your while. It's worth our while. We're going to keep doing it, and we encourage you to do the same.
I want to put one more shout out there. Zach and all the folks at NAMM, you know why it's not dead? Because they're working their butt off to innovate, recreate,
Organize.
and organize it. And I know they're not perfect, obviously. There's been problems.
I just
and
couldn't
understand
imagine
the
pulling an
problems.
event off that
but
size.
they're working to make sure it's innovating and continuing. And I'm proud of that, and I want to be a part of it. So
Yeah.
it's not dead. Go to NAMM next year.
There you go. There you have it, guys. We're the authority.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed our take on the NAMM Show
I'm sure they did.
2024. If you did, we talked about this video that I thought was one of the highlights of my year. It's the beginning of the year, Jay, so that's going to be really hard for you to top. See what your team can do. We did a video with Richard Hoover talking about Tony Rice's personal Santa Cruz guitar.
Brownie.
Yeah, no, it's not brownie. I had it wrong. It's chocolate. Yeah, it's chocolate.
Either way.
I said it wrong in the video. But anyway, there's going to be a link here in just a
like
second.
brownies.
Make sure to click that so that you get an opportunity to check it out because I think
there,
it's
big
one of the
fella.
coolest videos ever. And yeah, he's go to bed now, little guy. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much.